It's March 5th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. Starting with tariff retaliation following Trump's tariff salvo. Canada and China hit back with their own measures targeting the U.S. immediately after U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs took effect on Tuesday. Now, Trump says he'll slap retaliatory levies to equal what those countries do. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has called for a partial truce to secure peace in his country after Trump halted military aid to Ukraine. The two leaders are reportedly planning to sign a much-debated minerals deal on Tuesday. South Korea's economy grew 2% last year, in line with what the central bank expected back in January. The gross national income per capita came to $36,624, up 1.2% from a year earlier. After Trump's tariffs took effect on Tuesday, those countries that are affected have been replying with their own retaliatory measures. Canada, Mexico, and China have been firing off retaliatory tariffs, causing Trump to fire back. Our An Sung-jin starts us off.
Canada, Mexico, and China have been gearing up for retaliatory measures after U.S. President Donald Trump's tariff impositions began on March 4th, local time. Trump cited the failure to hamper drug trafficking, especially fentanyl, into the U.S. as a major reason for the tariffs. However, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau refuted the claim and said it is false to say that Canada was unwilling to help. Canada immediately imposed 25% tariffs on $20 billion of U.S. imports and will pursue several non-tariff measures as well.
The United States launched a trade war against Canada, their closest partner and ally, their closest friend. But in the meantime, our tariffs will remain in place until the U.S. tariffs are withdrawn, and not a moment sooner.
Trump immediately backfired as well. He referred Trudeau as Governor Trudeau and further added that retaliatory tariffs from Canada will only result in another round of immediate reciprocal tariffs increased by the same amount. Mexico said the U.S. import taxes had no justification and pledged to give details on retaliatory measures during the weekend, vowing to respond with tariff and non-tariff measures.
Nobody wins this decision. On the contrary, it affects the people we represent.
China is also expected to levy import taxes of 10 to 15% on some U.S. goods, including American beef, dairy, and agricultural products starting from March 10th. As the U.S. will be levying tariffs on crop purchases as well, starting from April 2nd, this may further startle the world economy and escalate into a global trade war. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
And concerns are lingering that Trump's merciless tariffs could spill over to South Korea. But Korean trade authorities are taming those worries, saying a communication channel is ready with the U.S. to discuss tariffs. Our Moon Hae-ryun has the details.
South Korea's Trade Minister An Duk-gun says his recent visit to the United States has established a key communication channel with the Trump administration to discuss tariffs and industrial cooperation, including shipbuilding and energy. Speaking at a press briefing on Tuesday, An described this as a major achievement, allowing negotiations to take place in a way that best serves South Korea's interests. He likened the tariff talks to a marathon, warning that new tariffs on industries such as semiconductors, biomanufacturing, and automobiles could emerge at any time. During his visit, An met with senior U.S. officials, including Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and White House Energy Advisor Doug Burgum. He confirmed that 4 working-level dialogue groups have been established on shipbuilding, energy, Alaska gas development, and non-tariff barriers, alongside separate channels with the U.S. Commerce Department, the U.S. Trade Representative, and the National Energy Council. With the U.S. set to expand tariffs on steel and aluminium starting next week and poised to introduce more, and stressed that securing a fair competitive environment is crucial, saying South Korean firms will be able to adapt if they are not placed at a disadvantage compared to other countries. He also emphasized the need for consistent policy, highlighting the strong industrial ties between the two countries, and stated that Seoul is urging Washington to uphold commitments made to Korean companies under the previous administration, such as the Inflation Reduction Act. on shipbuilding and said Washington views South Korea as a key partner in strengthening U.S. naval capabilities, with Commerce Secretary Lutnick expressing appreciation for Seoul's willingness to cooperate. And further revealed that he had explored opportunities for South Korean participation in Alaska's gas development project, which has become a priority under President Trump's push for increased domestic oil and gas production. 문혜련, Arirang News.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy is trying to sort things out after his clash with Trump last week, now vowing to make things right after Trump announced pulling off all military aid for Ukraine. Lee Seung-jae has more.
In a video address on Tuesday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy expressed regret over his recent clash with U.S. President Donald Trump at the White House.
We seek constructive cooperation and true partnership. What happened at the White House, instead of our planned negotiations, is regrettable. But we must find the strength to move forward, respect one another, as we have always respected America, Europe, and all our partners, and work together to bring peace closer.
The Ukrainian leader said that maintaining a normal partnership relationship with the U.S. is crucial to ending the war, adding that no one wants an endless war. He also vowed to make things right, saying that Ukraine was ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible. Zelenskyy also took to X on Tuesday, saying that he and his team are ready to work under Trump's strong leadership for lasting peace. The remarks from Zelenskyy come after President Trump ordered all military aid to Ukraine to be cut off following the White House meeting. The decision was warmly welcomed by the Kremlin, who said that the U.S. suspending military aid to Ukraine would be the best contribution to peace. According to Russian media reports on Tuesday, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said it's clear that the U.S. has been the main supplier of the Ukraine war, welcoming the decision to cut aid to Ukraine. He said while the details of the suspension need to be confirmed, it will allow Ukraine to enter into a peace process. Peskov also voiced optimism that Kyiv will lean towards resolving this situation through peaceful means. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen announced on Tuesday that the EU bloc will boost collective defense by significantly boosting military spending. The European Commission President introduced the ReArm Europe plan, which would allow all European countries to access a fund worth $840 billion for defense in the coming years. Calling it an era of a rearmament, she says the plan will allow EU member states to pool demand and to buy together while increasing interoperability and strengthening its defense. The announcement comes as EU leaders are set to meet in Brussels on Thursday, where they'll discuss a defense package for Europe and Ukraine. After a dramatic spat with his Ukrainian counterpart, U.S. President Donald Trump is now apparently hoping to announce the minerals deal with Ukraine in his first address to Congress since returning to power. For more, we connect with Voice of America correspondent Jessica Stone. Hello there, Jessica.
Good to be with you.
Jessica, he should be delivering his speech in the coming hour. Now, how important is this congressional speech?
Well, this goes back to the times of Thomas Jefferson, one of the founding fathers of the United States. In 1801, he began doing this written update to Congress. Then in 1913, Woodrow Wilson made it a spoken address to Congress. And by the 1950s, we saw that it actually became a regular annual event. Of course, the first year that a president is in office, it's called a joint session address. Following that, it's the State of the Union address. And in terms of tonight, we know that President Trump, according to the American Presidency Project, averages length about an hour and 20 minutes in terms of these speeches that he gave during his first term. Now we know that the White House has penned in 2 hours for the president to be on Capitol Hill. And I'm just hearing the sirens go to pick him up at the White House now. He's slated to come in the next half an hour or so back up to Capitol Hill and prepare for those remarks at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Well, Jessica, I hear some Democrats are not showing up for this speech. Is there a boycott?
There's not an official boycott from Democratic leadership, but there are a number of senators and members of Congress who are deciding not to come, particularly those who represent large constituencies of federal workers who are really being impacted by the DOGE cuts and by the different kinds of policies that are happening in terms of trimming federal spending. Having said that, we also know that a number of them are going to be bringing props, the blue and yellow ties, for example, to support Ukraine, or the people in the box that are federal workers, laid off federal workers, or people being adversely affected by healthcare cuts, cancer research, and the like. This is something that is not new to this year, though. It's also something that Democrats and Republicans do every year. And this year, the White House is also going to be using that same sort of approach with guests in its box to underscore immigration issues, to underscore some of the moves that the Trump administration has already done to free Americans from captivity in other countries, particularly Mark Fogel, who was freed from Russia after years in detention. Also, the family of the Trump assassination victim in Butler, Pennsylvania, the fire chief in that area who was killed and took the bullet that presumably was meant for President Trump during that first assassination attempt. His family will be there, as well as a wife of a fallen NYPD officer, kind of underscoring some of the rhetoric we've heard from the Trump administration regarding violent crime and its prevalence in the United States.
Well, Jessica, on top of that, Ukraine crisis will no doubt be on one of the top agendas during the address in the coming hour. Now, what is Trump expected to, say this time?
Well, you mentioned earlier that we do think he's going to talk more about this critical minerals deal and lay out a timeline for its signing. We saw a lot of movement in terms of what the Kremlin did today, as your reporters outlined, as well as what Volodymyr Zelenskyy did with that expressing regret, saying he's ready to sign the deal just hours after the president stopped and paused military funding to Ukraine. And as well, the U.S. government has paused U.S. cyber operations against Russia. So you sort of have a carrot and a stick approach there. So there are things moving forward with respect to getting them closer to signing a deal. We expect that the president will talk more about that and a longer version and vision of how to reach peace in Ukraine. It's also, of course, an opportunity for him to go right to Congress, to be the first time he's on Capitol Hill since he's been elected, and ask Congress to pass his quote unquote big, beautiful spending bill, which is his spending plan to advance those Trump tax cuts, extend them that were passed in 2017, to cut federal spending in places like Medicaid, which is a healthcare program for the poor, and to pay down the debt. So we do expect to hear more from him on those issues as well. And he really does need to appeal specifically to his own party to get that done.
Well, I do have to mention the speech also comes a day after he announced tariff plans on Mexico, Canada, and China. What is he expected to say about tariffs now?
So that's a sensitive issue, right, for the American public, because the perception is that the prices of goods are going to go up with tariffs. That's often what happens because the companies that make the goods that are tariffed pass it along to the consumer. And of course, we're in a sensitive time economically. Egg prices are up, gas prices in some cases are up. And so people are looking for answers about what their spending and their cost of living is going to be like. So I would fully expect President Trump to talk about justifying the tariffs, to talk about why he's using it as a tool, potentially talking for how long he is. We've already seen some movement on relinquishing or relenting on those tariffs in Mexico and Canada, because Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, said after the markets closed that there might be a deal that would be announced as early as tomorrow, Wednesday, that would allow some of those tariffs that were implemented today to be rolled back on Canada and Mexico. Another thing, we learned over the weekend that President Trump wants to appoint an affordability czar. That would also be someone who could explain what is going on with prices and policy to the American people. We may hear more about that tonight. The economy, really a key focus for this administration, and it needs to be, because this is a big part of why he won the White House. People in America felt that he was better able to manage the economy than his opponent. Having said that, a CNN poll released today says 82% of Americans say he should prioritize the economy, but only 36% say he actually is. So he needs to address that gap tonight.
Definitely. Well, last but not least, what about North Korea and related issues? Will Trump make note of, Korean Peninsula related issues this time?
I think it's safe to say he may allude to trying to restart peace talks, but that honestly has not been the focus of many of his administrative moves. We've seen moves, of course, on Ukraine, on the border, on cutting federal spending. And so I would not say that it's highly likely we'll get a lot more on that. Certainly, it's possible that in the context of talking about this alliance we're seeing emerging between Iran, Russia, and China and North Korea, it may get a mention. But I don't think we're going to hear a lot tonight about policy going forward on that, because it hasn't moved much since Trump came in to office just 100 days ago or so.
That is true. All right, Jessica, thank you for the coverage tonight. We appreciate it.
Always good to be with you. Thanks.
In the meantime, nominee for U.S. Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, Elbridge Colby has voiced uncertainty over security cooperation between South Korea, the U.S., and Japan. During his Senate confirmation hearing on Tuesday, when asked about an Indo-Pacific version of NATO, he stated that with the political dynamics of SAR in the past 6 to 8 months, it is unclear whether cooperation can continue. He did add that he isn't against the idea of the multilateral alliance, but he is skeptical on whether the alliance would be as ambitious as NATO. This comes as Colby argued that the U.S. couldn't focus on everything at once, though adding that it wouldn't want North Korea to take over South Korea. South Korea's gross national income per capita edged up by just over 1% last year due to the Korean won's depreciation against the U.S. dollar. Preliminary data from the Bank of Korea on Wednesday showed that in the local currency, GNI grew by 5.7%, but when converted into U.S. dollars, the rate was lower at 1.2%, amounting to $36,624. The country's GDP growth rate for 2024 was confirmed at 2%, unchanged from preliminary data released last year. South Korea's GNI per capita first surpassed the $30,000 mark back in 2014 and continued steady growth before dropping in 2022 due to the weakening of the won against the greenback. Now, over in Spain, artificial intelligence is once again taking the spotlight at this year's Mobile World Congress, with global tech firms showing off their own upgraded versions of AI that are practical, handy, and affordable. Our Lee Soo-jin reports from Barcelona.
Thousands have once again made the annual pilgrimage to Barcelona for the latest innovations in mobile devices and telecommunications. And at the 2025 Mobile World Congress, one theme dominates: artificial intelligence.
It's basically every booth that you are crossing is the one about AI integration. So it's all about AI mostly.
One such booth where AI is taking center stage is South Korean telecom giant LG-U+'s first ever solo exhibition at MWC, where visitors are greeted not just by staff, but by the humanoid robot Alice.
I'm Alice, a humanoid robot, and I'm here to help you at MWC 2025. What would you like to know or experience?
Alice, can I take a photo with you? But it's not just about eye-catching AI technology, as LG-U+ is showcasing AI innovations that are secure.
As AI develops, so there are more crimes related to AI, such as so the criminals use the AI-generated voices. Basically, there are many generated AI's defects, such as personal information leakages.
LG-U+'s AI-powered technology, anti-deep voice, is designed to detect voice phishing and fraud by distinguishing between real human voices and deepfake voices.
We will send you the final version of the proposal.
After my voice was recorded, it was turned into a deepfake to test the technology.
This is the investigation team. Your identity is being reviewed for financial fraud.
The AI technology successfully detected that my voice was a deepfake. The focus on secure AI is also evident in the mobile industry, particularly in Samsung Electronics' latest mid-range smartphones, unveiled for the first time at this year's convention.
That the Galaxy AI is providing you this new way of interacting with the device, also in a secure way, So the user have to be trusted that his information is never going to be compromised.
And the more budget-friendly prices are set to make secure and advanced AI-powered features, such as AI-enhanced photography once limited to high-end models, more accessible. AI-enhanced photography features were also what drew large crowds to Chinese smartphones. Huawei showcased the world's first commercial trifold smartphone, utilizing AI to enhance zoom capabilities for photography, while Xiaomi debuted its 15 Ultra, featuring AI-driven extreme zoom and image clarity enhancements for photos. From AI-driven security solutions to AI-powered smartphones, this year's MWC is making one thing clear. Artificial intelligence is no longer an option but a necessity for mobile and telecom innovation. Isujin, Arirang News, Barcelona.
Good morning, I'm Yoon Se-young, and this is The World Now. Russian President Vladimir Putin has held talks with Myanmar's military leader. The talks at the Kremlin on Tuesday mark Senior General Min Aung Hlaing's fourth visit to Russia since Myanmar's military seized power in February 2021, ousting the democratically elected government of Aung San Suu Kyi. During the meeting, Putin highlighted the increase in trade with Myanmar's military government and emphasized close cooperation on the international stage. Russia, alongside China, remains a key supporter and arms supplier to Myanmar's military government. Min Aung Hlaing, in return, expressed his open support for Russia's military operations in Ukraine. Meanwhile, according to Russia's TASS news agency, Myanmar officials have been invited to attend Moscow's Victory Day parade on May 9th. The euro rose to its highest level in 2025, fueled by expectations of increased European defense spending. The official currency of 20 European countries rose 0.5% against the US dollar on Tuesday, reaching about $1.05, its strongest level since December 10th of last year. That came after the European Commission announced plans to extend 150 billion euros, or $158 billion in loans to boost defense budgets across the continent. Meanwhile, European stock markets tumbled amid concerns over U.S. President Donald Trump's tariff policies. The Pan-European Stock 600 index fell 2.1%, hitting its lowest level since August 2024. Investors fear that tariffs recently imposed on Canada, Mexico, and China could further weaken global economic growth and might also be extended to Europe. SpaceX's massive Starship rocket was set to launch on Monday local time, but the launch was called off due to technical issues just 40 seconds before liftoff. The rocket was scheduled for a test flight from South Texas, carrying 4 mock satellites. SpaceX said another launch attempt could be made as early as Tuesday if the issue is resolved quickly. In its previous test flight in January, Starship exploded over the Atlantic Ocean. NASA plans to use Starship for future crewed moon landings, while SpaceX CEO Elon Musk says the rocket playing a key role in colonizing Mars. Runners with frying pans filled with pancakes took to the streets of central London to celebrate Shrove Tuesday, also known as Pancake Day. Hundreds of spectators gathered at Guildhall Yard cheering on participants in the annual intra-livery pancake race. This event is one of many held across the UK to mark the day before the start of Lent, the 40-day period of prayer, fasting, and repentance leading up to Easter. In the inter-livery race, teams representing traditional London guilds with nearly 1,000 years of history competed in costumes. The winners received a trophy and a frying pan as their prize.
After some rough winter weather conditions yesterday, we will be rewarded with spring-like conditions from today. Today is Gyeongchip, the third spring seasonal term, a day of awakening from hibernation. And to meet the term, we are in for a pleasant change. Afternoon temperatures are around normal for the time of year, a big rise from yesterday's chilly weather. However, the east of Gangwon-do is still under a heavy snow advisory with up to 15 centimeters millimeters of snow expected today. Some of the southern provinces will see spotty rainfall, but the rest of the country will be under rather cloudy skies. Afternoon highs will range from 8 to 10 degrees Celsius this afternoon. Air quality will be good nationwide all day today. Looking ahead, this warming trend is set to continue this week under sunnier skies. It will get even warmer next week, but there will be big gaps in readings between lows and highs. Remember to dress in layers to stay comfortable as temperatures fluctuate.
That is all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.